there. Welcome to Top of Mind. Real talk for today's woman. With Anna and Karen.
Hello.
Hey, woohoo!
Big so that I know where to edit. That's what that's all about, ladies and gents.
Uh-huh. So how's things with you?
I need a break. We just launched a book. It's been like 3 weeks of launching that book. It came out 2 weeks early. So I had to catch up on a program that it was offering at the same time that it was coming out. I thought I had 2 more weeks to build it out and I didn't. So I took a vacation that ended up being work, and I'm tired.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
I have to tell you, it's been tough for me. And I've been thinking a lot about, there's a few things going on, but really what I'm thinking a lot about is anxiety. Because I can tell you that 5 years ago, I thought I conquered it. But at the start of the summer, it kind of knocked me on my ass and I've been sideways since then. And, we talk a lot about like the whole fight and flight, as it relates to our stress response. But what I don't think we talk a lot about is freeze. And that pretty much tells you where I've been for 3 months. I've been in the freeze mode, as if, like you're saying that you're tired. So I guess, what I kind of want to talk about today is understanding and how do we honor our body when we're at capacity? Because that's kind of when we freeze, right? Because we're not fighting, we're not retreating, we're frozen, which can look like, maybe we feel like we're lazy, maybe we're kind of self-sabotaging, maybe we're just frozen. That's kind of how I feel. So as much as I feel like I've conquered my anxiety, it is, again, just totally knocked me on my ass and I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm like, let's talk about that. Because we both do a lot of our healing journey. And the funny thing is, and this is the truth, I went to Goodwill today because, I like to look for books and I'm sitting there looking at a book and someone is standing next to me and she says, well, hello. And then I turn around and it's somebody who I know through one of my networking groups. Cool. And she's what I would consider what she is probably, she's an energy healer and she's a Reiki master. And I really didn't have to say anything to her. And she goes, I'm supposed to tell you something. She said at the start of this summer, she goes, the energies have been so powerful that a lot of us that have been kind of further along on our healing journey and kind of, we're probably like energy healers. Yeah. She said, we've reverted back. We've reverted back to what we feel that we have kind of healed and worked through. We're back. We're back to where, prior to our healing. It's not the same, she said, it's deeper because you're meant to go deeper. So I'm like, because again, totally unsolicited. Haven't seen her for probably, since I did a talk on resonance in May at that group. And then she's like, and I feel like my energy right now, actually from the last few months has just been low. So I've been like a hermit. I've been like a turtle. So that's what I mean. Like my body's at capacity, and it's kind of sounds like based on you taking a vacation, sounds like you might be at capacity too.
Well, I'm a little bit different in that I thrive off of that type of intensity, deadlines, things like that. I enjoy pushing myself. I'm a grinder. I just said I'm a grinder. For the most part, I enjoy it. I think I sat, when was it? Saturday? I sat with Sue and she was on the computer and it's the first time that I sat without a TV or a phone or something I'm listening to. And months. And I sat there and I just listened to the crickets and things like that. And it's kind of like, it was good for 5-10 minutes because I can meditate for 5-10 minutes. And then after that, it's like, well, this is really interesting. I'm really having a hard time not absorbing something. I absorb everything. That's the way I feel. Like I go through, I'm a Pisces, I go through the day, just,
Uh-huh.
and I get a lot from that.
Hmm.
So, there's a couple of things I get. I get people burnt out. Like
Okay.
when I go to networking events
Mhm.
in person, or even those like speed dating ones, I find my energy gets drained. So, and I used to be so much more of an extrovert. So when I said like I'm tired, I am. It's very rare that I get like this.
Mhm.
And the fact of the matter is, I only need a day or two. I'm one of those that I can rejuvenate very quickly,
Mhm.
you know. But you started this conversation by talking about your anxiety and
Yes.
how that has impacted you for freeze.
Mhm.
you know so it's kind of like that's what I want to dive into, like when we're in that frozen state of I can't do, or I don't want to do, or I just can't seem to get beyond this. It's like, what do we do then to kind of shake it?
That's a really, I think that's a good question. And it's funny because I see posts about people, well, when you have anxiety, you have to do this or you have to exercise. I do all of that. And if it were really that simple, I don't think we'd ever feel anxiety again. Um, but the fact is, like, we're so unique.
Yes.
So, and I can tell you that normally I have the ability to kind of shake it or at least kind of work through it. But this has just been, it's almost like the perfect storm. And I can almost pinpoint where it's coming from, but I haven't been able to, all the healing, all the knowledge, all the consuming I've done, I have not been able to see my way out of it. It's like being in a wet paper bag. So it's interesting. Now I've gotten back to my meditation a couple
Mm-hmm.
days ago, um, in an effort to kind of reconnect.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you that the source of my anxiety is 100% from motherhood.
Yep.
100%. Because it's kind of I'm at a crossroads with my daughters. They're 21 and they're 22. So they're very much feeling like young adults. Um, they're both great kids, very responsible. Um, but I find myself gripping the shit out of the wheel of their life
Mm.
because it's just so hard. Like, it's rooted to wings.
Sorry, rooted to
To
wings.
wings. Like they're, like you spend their life kind of rooting them, making sure they have the deep roots.
Okay.
And then it comes to a point that they got to spread their wings
Mm-hmm.
and they have to go.
Yep.
I am struggling. I am in that season.
You're trying to trim those wings so that they can't fly.
It's hard. It is definitely a season. Now, again, I mean, they've both been in college. One graduated, one's, but she's staying home to get her master's. But she's 22, so if she wants to go out, she wants to go out. Um, and same with the 21-year-old. Like normally she would text me, and now she's kind of getting her autonomy a little more.
Yep.
And it's hard. It's scary. And I say that I'm in a season because I do have a tremendous amount of trust for them,
Mm-hmm.
and I can rationalize it
Mm-hmm.
as if how this is, but when it comes to actually the doing at times, I'm not sure what's intuition and what's anxiety, but I'm learning that, anxiety pushes you where your intuition is a gentle, more quieter pull.
Okay.
So that has been my summer. And it's not, when I tell you it's knocked me on my ass, trust me. Like it's been tough. And where I normally would take solace in, say, reading or being at the beach, I can't quiet my mind enough to read, which bothers me because
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my outlets.
Yes.
Um, and I just feel like I've lived the last 3 months like a cat on a hot tin roof.
And okay, so you trust them, you trust your intuition. So let me ask, do you trust, and I'm going to say the world, is that where the issue is? that they're going to cause harm. So then you trust. I'm going into spirituality, faith, and all this type of stuff. But that's the question I'm asking ultimately is do you believe in a higher power, a God, or whatever the heck you want to call it?
Well, we talked about that in our last thing. I'm struggling with that. I am learning what it looks like to me because I grew up with the white beard, the
Yep.
staff god, the one that's not forgiving, and that's not what I believe. So I am trying to reconnect to my spiritual side. I'm not there obviously because I'm being. I always say you can live in faith or you can live in fear, and right now I am fear based. So that alone,
You can live in faith or you can live in fear, you said.
right?
I've heard it, you can live in love or fear.
It's kind of the same thing. Yeah.
Hold on. Well, yes and no. It depends if you're going to connect love with faith, and most faiths do, but you can also be an unfaithful person. You know what I mean? Not have a faith and believe in love. But I had somebody who challenged me about that because I got that from, we talked about the book Return to Love, Marianne Williamson. That's
Yep.
where I first heard it. It's either love or faith, love or fear, and you're choosing which one to live in that moment. Yeah, and then I break everything down into those two emotions, and it made so much sense. And then just this year, I mentioned that at a conference I was at, and my mentor turned around and said, "No, I'm going to challenge that." He says, "There is only love."
Hmm.
And it's kind of like the whole idea there's only light. Darkness is just the absence of light. It really isn't dark.
Right.
And so therefore, there's only love.
Hmm.
And fear is only the absence of love. Fear isn't the feeling, the love is. So you have to generate more love in order to overcome that fear. It's kind of like we think we have to battle the fear, but we don't. We have to battle the lack of love in that moment and focus on the love.
Hmm. That's interesting because I read the book that this
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I'm just having trouble kind of what the other thing I've realized, Karen, is that, and I think we talked about this, like I grew up in an alcoholic household that had really nothing to do with my parents. It was my siblings. But my mom was very much codependent.
Yep.
And that was passed to me. And what I realized through all this as well, because again, I'm just kind of, laying down the groundwork of what's going on and how I can emerge from here, is that whenever we feel responsible for an adult's emotions,
Mhm.
that is a codependent position.
Yep.
And I have two adult girls by all stretch of the imagination, and I feel every bit of their when they're pissed off, when they're happy, all of that. And that has told me that, and then when the woman said today, you have to go back, you have something else to heal. I keep
Mhm.
coming back to that codependence because I've never dealt with that.
Well, there's codependence, and I also think of sitting here. What's coming to my mind and it goes along with my history of like abuse, and so it's the idea of having to check where everybody's at. And as a child, we think everything we've we're godlike. It's kind of like everything revolves around me. If mommy and daddy are fighting, it's because of me. And
Mhm.
so when you have a chaotic home, as an alcoholic home, and there's chaos within that home, it
Mhm.
creates an unsettling feeling and you feel uncomfortable as a child. So what you do is you monitor. You send out the feelers all the time
Mhm.
because what you're doing is you think that you can control it. It's the same thing with domestic violence as well. It's like you're looking for the cues because if it comes from you, and here's the thing, if it comes from you, therefore you have power to change it.
Mhm.
So you own it more. So the idea is that you're trying to change your environment by sending out those feelers and that type of stuff. So I'm not sure that it's as much codependent. If you're looking at trying to get this at codependent, for me, I'm sitting here thinking, no, it's about control of my environment. And that means people's emotions. That means the way that they react in that. If you're upset, I feel, and this is where my codependency comes in. It's like if you're upset, I have to do something because I feel upset now.
Mhm.
I feel like it's my fault, and that not that I caused it, but it's my fault if I can't move you out of it, and you're impacting my emotional state.
It's funny you should say that because one of the accounts I follow talked about that's kind of how we're created as empaths.
Mm,
is in that dysfunctional environment where we're trying to be in touch with all the energy around us. Energy meaning how people are feeling.
It's a survival technique, though, really. It's not,
It is.
It's like, oh, geez, health doesn't feel good. I think I'll go out and play with friends, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To my room where it's safe. It's a safety mechanism.
Yep. And I do think that's part of it, but I also still go back to the codependency of needing to, again, be responsible for how everybody feels. So I actually see and understand exactly what you're saying as well.
Yeah.
And it has to do with just trying to manage because, as a kid, you're right. We're we're self-centered. And it's not in an ego way. It's really not. As kids, we're not in that ego. Yeah, we're not in that ego mindset. But it's kind of interesting to, because you're absolutely right. Like I completely agree with that as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess my point in talking about this is because it's been weighing very heavily on my heart. And I even have talked to like different of, my tennis friends and other moms, and especially moms of girls, because it's different.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad, it's worse or better, but being moms, like, as we're always connected to our kids. We always carry their cells within us. They carry ourselves. But the mother-daughter relationship is so much different than the mother-son.
Yep.
Or the mother-boy thing. So it's just been literally, and I have to tell you, I'm starting to kind of put pieces together as to where the healing needs to happen. But it's been, I'll be 100%, it's been a very traumatic summer. I mean, very traumatic. Just trying to kind of maneuver all this and recognizing that, almost as I was not a conscious parent. But as now, I feel like I'm more of a conscious parent, meaning this is my kid's life. This is a soul that came through me. It's their life. It's their canvas to paint upon.
Mm-hmm.
My emphasis, and my husband and I both did, we had an emphasis on schoolwork and things like that. Now, if I could go back, I would change all that, but I can't. Mm-hmm. So now as I become more kind of aware, once you're aware, you can't go unaware.
No.
So anyway, that's been kind of top of mind for me. And I know we did our recording, for August even, but this has very much controlled my energy for the summer. So welcome advice. So anybody listening?
Yes.
I'm gonna, welcome advice as to what, if they have any good tools or any advice, and kind of handling the season of shifting from feeling, responsible as a mom to, kind of just being the branch.
And I was just going to say, Anna, I was going to ask you, what was your message to the listeners and audience? And I really think, I don't have kids, but I really think that what you're going through is not unique. I think that many women experience it in different degrees. That launching, type of idea. It's not an age thing. It's more of a independence type of thing. And so I think that people can really, I'm assuming that listeners will relate to what you're saying. And, so again, I invite people to answer as well. Like, we're putting out, how do you deal with this? What are some of the things that you found helpful to help shift? And, as Anna said, she's in freeze mode right now. How can she get out of that?
Right.
What would people suggest? Sometimes this is about us just putting our stuff out there, and we don't always have all the answers, obviously. Right. And we look for guidance and suggestions from other people. And I thank you for your honesty and your autonomy and bringing this up today, Anna, as I'm sure many other people will too. So, yep. So I think we're at the end of this one, really raw and honest and open. And thank you for joining us today. I'm Karen Vale. She's a confidence and mindset coach, and I'm with Anna today.
And I am a midlife kind of mentor. So that's where I am right now.
So thanks for joining us.
See you next time.